Hey everybody, Eddie here from Fallout 4 News, and today we are going to be doing a Fallout 4 official debut trailer breakdown. I'm just going to be going through and pausing every time I notice something. I just want to say right off the bat, if you've not seen this yet and you want to watch it without me pausing it, there will be a link in the description so you can go and watch the normal trailer. I highly recommend you do that. Also, I just want to say that the majority of the interesting stuff goes down in the second half of this. I do have a few points to talk about in the first half, but yeah, the first half is a bit more slow going with a lot more going on in the second half, so yeah. Without any further ado, let's get into this.
Peggy 18.
It's all over, but the crowd.
Okay, so here's something that I wanted to talk about just because to me this seems pretty interesting, but I've not actually heard anyone else sort of bring this up yet. Maybe they haven't, I've just not seen it yet, but that's fine. So what you're looking at now is the inside of a building, and as you can see, I mean obviously it's destroyed and stuff, but there's actually furnishings and things going on in here. But if you look in the background, first of all the window is smashed up, and second of all you can actually see outside. Now the reason why this interested me is because in all the previous games, and just games in general really, open world games, but more specifically in the previous Fallout games and in things like Skyrim and Oblivion, if you want to go inside and outside of a building, you have to go through a loading screen. You have to go up to the door and then like enter it and exit it. The reason why this interests me is because this is just a normal house. Now obviously there are exceptions to that rule, things like the diner, there's a town that I've forgotten the name of, but the town in Fallout 3 with the mechanic and the mechanist, sorry, and the antagonizer, there's the diner in that town. Most diners actually in Fallout 3 you can just walk in and out of, same with New Vegas, with the majority of buildings actually had a lot going on inside of them, like houses for example. The windows were sort of blacked out so you couldn't see inside or outside, like you couldn't see through them because obviously that wasn't rendered and all that kind of stuff. So I think it'd be interesting. Admittedly some of the loading screens aren't particularly long, but I think it'd be interesting to see the way this pans out because this is just a normal house, and as you can see, you know, it's easy to get into. You'll see in a minute there's no doorway there's no door because the doorway is just like wide open. So it'll be interesting to see if they eliminate that. Obviously this is being done in a new engine to that of Skyrim and the other Fallout games. So it will be interesting to see. I think this would be really awesome because, you know, it just eliminates a small thing with the game where you have to open up loading screens and go in and out. But I think this will be awesome because it means that there's just a little thing gone. I think that'll be a big improvement, as small as it actually is. Even though it'll probably make the game a bit harder to run because it means there'll be a lot more to render. If you go into the wasteland and it's got to render the insides of all these houses and all that as you go. So maybe it'll chop the frame rate a bit, but we'll see.
With the world poised on the brink of war, Vault-Tec is reporting a record number.
Okay, so as you can see, I'm going to talk about the dog in a second, but yeah, here we go. The doorway is wide open, so you'd think that you'd just be able to walk in and out. So I think it's interesting that this is just a normal house across the wasteland. Usually something like this in the previous games, you'd have to actually walk and press like enter on the door and then go through a loading screen, but I mean, maybe we won't have to do this anymore. Maybe we'll just be able to walk in and out. Okay, my next point, so as you can see, the dog has returned. A lot of people have been talking about this because he's kind of a focal point of the whole trailer. So that definitely suggests that animals are going to return in. At the end of the trailer itself, you'll see it reunite with its owner, with this supposed protagonist. So we're assuming there's going to be some sort of familiar system where you can take your dog with you, similar to dog meat in Fallout 3. So we know that's going to be returning. What's interesting about this dog is it's just a normal dog. So whether or not there'll just be the one dog in the whole game, like there was with Fallout 3, there was just dog meat, or whether there'll be different dogs, whether there'll be more animals. We will be seeing a little bit more of that later, some of the other creatures in the wasteland. But it'll be interesting to see where this goes, because at the moment we've seen there's a dog, we've seen it goes to its owner, so we know that's going to be returning, and that was a really loved feature of the game, so everyone's happy about that. But it'll be interesting to see what else they do with this, whether there'll be more animals, more dogs, maybe even types of dogs. Seems unlikely, but you never know. But yeah.
Folks, it seems...
Okay, so here we got on those Mr. Handy robots. This is interesting because this would suggest that the handy robots are back. But the thing about this is in a flashback. So we're seeing this robot, we're seeing it in a flashback. This is before the war happens. Now, there's no confirmation as to where the game is going to be set. We're obviously going to assume it's after the bombs are dropped, but maybe some of the gameplay will be before. I mean, like I said, there's nothing confirmed yet, so we don't really know. But what we're seeing here is that I'm assuming that the handy bots are going to be in here somehow, in the game in some sort of way. But what you gotta remember is this is a flashback, so just because we're seeing it in the flashback doesn't mean that they will actually be in the game itself. This could easily just be some sort of lore, some sort of storytelling for the trailer, but they are here, so they've not been forgotten about. But don't assume that they are confirmed to be in the game itself.
We've got some breaking news. Stand by.
It's all over. No, I'm trying to forget about how much I care for you.
We seem to have lost contact with our affiliate stations. Stand by.
Okay, so this interested me. Now, I'm assuming this is just some sort of storytelling, just setting up some lore for the trailer itself. But I found it interesting the way this dog's sniffing around the crib, maybe as if it was sort of remembering its family. Now, usually with the Fallout games, they're set quite a decent amount of time after the bombs have been dropped, and later on we'll see that there's reason to suggest that this was going to be even more after, even later than the game itself, the games before. But I think it's interesting the way it's sniffing around the crib. Maybe it has memories. Maybe this dog was around before the bombs. Like I said, that seems unlikely because usually there's quite a big gap. But I just think it's interesting the way it was doing this. Maybe it can just smell the presence of, well, there once was a baby or some crap like that. I don't know. I just thought it was interesting. I thought I'd pause it, see if you guys have anything to say about it.
We do have coming in confirmed reports of nuclear detonations.
Okay, so here we see wasteland. Essentially, we see a standard destroyed little village. Nothing really to talk about here, but this is where I start to kind of talk about a lot of stuff. So there's not much to say about this, but you know, it looks pretty standard. So it's good to see that this sort of standard stuff is back. They're not deviating too much. Something I did notice, so this looks a bit more colourful, and we'll see a bit more of that later on in the trailer, but this looks more colourful. A lot of people complained about the previous games being a bit sort of brown and black and a bit dark and boring, but this looks pretty bright, pretty colourful, so it'll be interesting to see where that goes, especially with the new trailer.
My God.
Okay, obviously this is a flashback, but this kind of, again, demonstrates what I was talking about with the colours. This looks really bright and really good looking. Now, this is before the bombs drop, so obviously it's not going to look like this, but still, this looks really nice.
Our soldiers were right. War never changes.
Okay, so as you can see, this is a vault door opening. Now, this is, I mean, obviously the vaults are going to be in the game, but it's interesting to see the way this happens. This actually looks, if you're looking at this vault door itself and comparing it to the previous games, this looks a lot more technologically advanced, so maybe that'll play into it. Maybe the game itself will have better technology on the whole. Maybe this will mean absolutely nothing. But I just thought I'd point this out that the door does look a bit better technology-wise. Okay, so as you can see, complete waste, completely desolate, but it still looks bright. So I mean, this is going to be a good thing, because that's one of the main things that people complain about, is how the game just doesn't look good, and it looks ugly and grey and stuff. But I mean, maybe they fix this, because this does look pretty nice to me, at least. I think this looks pretty good. Okay, so this, to all the people that have been saying, oh, Washington Monument, that's Arlington, yeah, it's set in Washington, just, yeah, I mean, I don't even want to associate with that kind of person. I don't want to talk to him. That's not the Washington Monument. This isn't the big library that I've forgotten the name of. This isn't Washington. We have no idea where the game's set. Some people have speculated, but there's been nothing confirmed. I mean, first of all, this isn't tall enough to be the Washington Monument. Not far off, because the Washington Monument isn't actually that tall. But just look at it. Look at the Washington Monument. Look at it in real life. Look at it in the game. It's not next to a tomb thing. It's not next to a highway going past. This isn't set in Washington. To anyone who's been saying, oh, this would imply that maybe it's set in the same place, it's not. Shut up. If I'm wrong, though, feel free to yell at me in the comments. Okay, so this looks really interesting. This looks like a pirate ship, but it's got massive thrusters on the back. So this links it back into what I was saying about maybe the technology will be better. This looks, I mean, it looks like a massive spaceship. So technology is obviously looking pretty good. The fact that even after this war, they can build massive thrusters like this. What interested me, though, is I mean, this looks abandoned, to be fair, because, I mean, you look at all the rubble around, you look at the fence down here, that's pretty broken, and the wall itself has got leaves growing on it. So I think this was maybe built before the bombs were dropped, and it just managed to survive, which seems a bit unlikely, but hey, maybe the bombs weren't dropped right near. But I'd be interested to see if this actually is used for anything, if you could, like, I mean, it seems a bit big to be able to fly about or something like that, but it'd be interesting to see if this is used for anything, so yeah. Right, this interested me because there's going to be a lot of different shots of sort of different cities and they all sort of link together, but I just thought I'd pause and show this off. There's nothing specific to talk about this particular shot, but I mean, I'll show the other shots and then I'll sort of talk about it all together. So yeah, just take a moment to look at this. Looking good. Okay, let's move on. Okay, Brahm in the back. There's a little Brahmin there walking with his pack. I would like to see if there was some sort of way to get your own Brahmin where you could use him to put your own stuff, but what this suggests to me is that the merchants will be back, the little merchants that went wrong with the Brahmins and the bodyguards. They were pretty awesome. I liked stumbling across those and doing some trading, pretty useful in the wastes. This guy doesn't actually have a trader with him, he's just walking by himself, but there is a guy here, if you look just to the right here, there's a guy stood by in front of this little building, so maybe he's just sent it out and done sort of auto trade or something, I don't know, but I just thought I'd point it out. It's pretty interesting. We know Brahmins are going to be back, although I can actually only see one head on this one, so I'm just kind of assuming it's a Brahmin. But anyway, yeah, let's carry on. Okay, so here we got the robot. This is obviously after the war's gone off, just because of the way it looks. Although the cars do still look bright and vibrant and good looking, just throwing that out there. But yeah, this is showing these robot dudes are back. I've forgotten what these guys are actually called, like on the whole. But these are the guys that walk around and shoot lasers and stuff. So, like I said before, we're not definitely sure that Mr. Handy is going to be back in the game itself. But if these robots have survived, and if these robots are going to be wandering around the wastes, that would suggest to me that Mr. Handy will be back. Okay, so here we've got some sort of, I mean, it looks like a cross between a mudcrab from Skyrim and a Mirelurk. The reason why I don't just say it's a Mirelurk is because it has these little sort of legs on the front. The shot isn't very long, but I thought I'd just kind of pause it to show it. So this is wandering around. This would suggest that Mirelurks might be back, or if not Mirelurks, some sort of thing similar to Mirelurks. I personally would like to see the way Mirelurks were done be rejigged, because they were kind of awkward and really difficult to kill. The way you had to like shoot them in the face in that tiny little shell. So it's good to see that they're maybe changing this. Like I said, I don't know if they're actually going to be back or not, but I like the look of this new thing. Also, just a side note, the sand and the sort of little shrubbery that's coming out looks really good with this engine. So even though there's not going to be that much plantage going on, I'm pretty confident in the engine that it is going to make what little plants there are look good. Okay, so here's the dog. He's wandering the waste. He might be by himself. He might not be. I mean, his owner could just be a little bit behind. We don't know. But basically, I mean, dogs might be wandering the waste a bit more. Not much more to say about that. It could be interesting to see some dogs. There were like wild dogs in Fallout 3, so maybe they'll be making a return. Who knows? Okay, Deathclaws. Deathclaws are back. There's not much to say about this. That's just a standard Deathclaw. I mean, it's got its horn. It's just a Deathclaw. It's not really changed much, or at least not. There might be specific details changed, but it looks pretty much the same. However, what I wanted to point out about this shot is because what we've seen so far is desolateness, but kind of bright, and then like sort of bright cities. But this is like really sort of orangey. It looks really infected, this area. As you can see, the ground looks like those sort of areas where you'd walk over and get loads of radiation. So I'm assuming those sort of areas are going to be back. But what will be interesting to see is if some areas are affected more than others. Because this looks like completely destroyed. This looks like the bombs have just gone off. So that'll be interesting to see if there is some sort of like normal area where there's sort of standard stuff going on, but if there are areas in the map which are like particularly infected. So yeah. Okay, so this is obviously after the bombs have gone drop. You can tell by the way this satellite has been just completely destroyed. So yeah, we've got big birds, vertibirds even, I think is what they're called in Fallout 3. These are back and it's moving. Now, you couldn't actually fly them in Fallout 3, they were just involved in certain parts of the stories. But maybe they'll be just involved in the story again, but we know they will be back in the game. But I think it'd be interesting to see if they were implemented in some sort of way where you could actually fly them. Obviously, we've never really had vehicles in Fallout, so that would be interesting to see. But at least we know that vertibirds will be in the game in some sort of way. Okay, this shot interested me a lot. Now I'm going to play it a couple of times because it's pretty short. Essentially, this is some sort of abandoned, destroyed supermarket, which isn't really that much of a big deal to talk about, but there are a load of ghouls here. Now, this interested me for a few reasons. First of all, from the previous games we've learned that ghouls mainly hang out in the abandoned metro stations, so it's interesting to see a load of them hanging out. I'm talking about feral ghouls here specifically. So it's interesting to see them hanging out in supermarkets in groups above the ground. That's interesting to see. Maybe that'll be changed. I'm assuming they will still be in the metros if there are actually metros in the game. But it's interesting to see them hang out in different places. The other thing that's interesting me for is because if you actually watch the clip itself, which I'll show you now. Yeah, it's kind of hard to show off. But as you can see, they're just kind of sprinting towards you, arms flailing all over the place, knocking stuff over. So this would suggest to me that they've changed the way they worked. Obviously, they are going to work differently because it's a different engine and all that. But this would suggest to me that they've changed a lot because think about feral ghouls. They seemed a bit sort of blocky, and everything seemed a bit blocky and stiff in the previous games. That was pretty much my only complaint with them. So I think they look a lot more smooth. They're running towards you. As you can see, they're knocking trolleys all over the place. So that's going to be interesting to see. But they seem a lot more feral, a lot more just like they're coming right for you. So this is going to be interesting. I'd love to see sort of some sort of gore system, like when you shoot them, you can shoot arms off and stuff like that. Just to see it a lot more smooth, a lot more fluid. And that was something I always wanted when I was thinking about, oh, what do I want in the next Fallout game? So this suggests to me that this is going to be some sort of thing in it. The way they're running towards you suggests it's going to be a bit more fluid. Okay, so here we've got an Enclave iBot. Well, I mean, I say it's just an iBot. It might not be Enclave, but here we've got an iBot, so iBots are going to be back. I'm assuming they'll have the same as the other ones, just ones that like fly about and don't do much. But they'll also have maybe some hostile ones. But here's where the city stuff starts to get in. So yeah. Right. So this city looks pretty big. There'll be another shot in a minute which shows where it's like even bigger. The cities look very different compared to the other ones now. Doesn't necessarily look like there's a lot more people here compared to, say, Megaton. But the thing that interests me here is just, there seems like there's more life. It seems more lively, it's more colourful, the shops themselves look more legit. This reminds me a lot of Borderlands, Borderlands 2 and the pre-sequel. Well, sorry, I had to breathe there, I don't know what happened, but anyway. Yes, it reminds me a lot of Borderlands 2, just the way that the city is, there's this sort of central hub. There's shops and stuff. It just looks like the thing about Megaton was they set it up to survive, and people were using that as a place to survive. This doesn't look like a place that's just there to survive. This looks like a place where people are actually living and they're actually enjoying living there. So this is good to see. Also, it looks bigger from the big cities, from the big buildings in the background. It looks like the city would be bigger than any sort of other city we saw in the previous games. With the previous games, usually Megaton and Prim and Vegas were usually as big as they got. I mean, well, Vegas was pretty big, but that was sort of like exceptionally big, so it'll be interesting to see more big cities. This interested me a lot, and I've said that a few times, but the reason why this one interested me is because, first of all, this is a city as well. Now, I can't quite tell whether it's abandoned or not. It doesn't look completely desolate or destroyed, but it looks kind of empty and abandoned. But this is a very different environment to the one you saw in the previous shot. This is just some buildings with a statue. This looks like a sort of old-timey city which has managed to survive. Now, this interested me because this is very different from the last one. This is all bricks and stuff, and the other one was all like scrap metal. So it's going to be interesting to see if there are different cities with different environments. I also this maybe thought to me that there may be going to be some sort of different factions. Different cities had different factions that live in different ways. If one city's living sort of making out of scrap metal and they've got all the lights and the shops going on, but this one's more sort of bricks and solid, maybe this is like there'll be more sort of rich people living here and there'll be poorer people living in the city we just saw. So sorry. Sorry about that. Yeah, maybe there'll be some sort of different factions going on, different people living in different cities. That'll be interesting to see. Nextly, whatever this thing's going on in the background is a blimp, and it's actually flying. Now, I doubt you'll be able to fly this, but I'll be interested to see if this is just sort of some sort of thing going on, flying about, or if you'll actually be able to board these and ride them to places. I don't know, it'll be interesting. Okay, so we've got another city shot. This looks similar-ish to the last city, but this one looks like a proper real city. Like, it doesn't look Fallout-ish. Like, Fallout, usually, they make stuff out of what they can. They're either living in buildings that have just survived but are completely desolate and a little bit destroyed, or they sort of built stuff out of, like, whatever sort of corrugated iron, scrap metal they could find. But this looks like a real city. That's a big building going on in the background. What it reminds me of is peach trees from Dread, the Dread film, if you've seen that. But this looks, I mean, it stretches right back to the back. If you look off to the right, you can see it stretching for ages. I think this could be very interesting, because there aren't really many games that have big cities with specific detail and stuff like that. GTA 5 did pretty good with that, but there aren't many games that have just a massive city, and that's really hard to make. There's a lot to render, there's a lot of specific detail to put in, so I think it will be interesting. Obviously, if you've got some sort of massive city, it'll take forever to explore it, but maybe this is a good thing, but I guess it'll be interesting to see. Also, a side note, something I want to see, on the left here, got some sort of dome with one of those little tower things on the top. I forget what they're called. This kind of religious, that's what it made me think of. It made me think of mosques, and I think synagogues have those as well. Sorry if I'm offending anyone. I'm not entirely sure. I've just finished my RE GCSE, so I don't need to think about RE ever again. But anyway, so maybe there's going to be some sort of religions in it. Obviously, the last game had... I say the last game because I never really played much of New Vegas, so when I say the last game, I'm more often than not referring to Fallout 3. But anyway, yeah, that one had the Church of the Atom, so it's going to be interesting to see if there are religions. If there are multiple religions, that'd be pretty cool, because that could, again, bring it into the sort of factions type thing. Oblivion did a really good job of factions, how you could, like, join up and get your ranks and stuff, so that'd be interesting to see, joining factions. Maybe even religions setting, waging wars on each other or something, I don't know. Just factions in general, I think, would be an awesome thing to have in, and have them be fighting each other. I think it'd add for some great addition to the game. Okay, so we got a Nuka-Cola machine. Whether or not you'll be able to loot those, I don't know, but I mean, it's still in here. There's a Nuka-Cola machine. It is a slightly different design to the old one, but not... I mean, yeah, it's a different design, but it's not really a huge deal. But yeah, Nuka-Cola machines, I mean, there it is, it's back. Okay, so here we've got some sort of variation of the power armor, so I'm assuming the power armor is going to be back, because, I mean, it's here. But it does look slightly different. It looks, I mean, around the sort of arms and around the legs, looks a bit sort of heavier, a bit more hench, if that makes sense. So this interested me, because... bringing it back to the technology thing from before, this would maybe suggest that technology is going to be better because it looks more improved. However, there was something I noticed about this. If you look on his right arm, you can see a gap in the arm. Now, whether or not that's just because there's no one in the suit, and that if someone was in the suit, they'd be skin exposed. But with this sort of technology, it doesn't really make sense to have exposed skin and stuff, especially on like that one random part in the whole thing. So this got me thinking. Either someone's going to go in there and then that bit's just going to be, like I said, skin exposed, or maybe this is a robot. Now, it's not some sort of, like, stand here, but it looks like this could be, like, have some sort of, like, electrical charge in it, so maybe this sort of, like, is what charges up the robot or something like that. But if there's a gap there, maybe this isn't meant for people to wear, maybe this isn't armor, maybe this is a robot. Okay, so coming over to the left-hand side of the screen, we've got some weapons going on here. We've got in the middle, the sort of main one just looks like a standard laser rifle. It looks the same shape, the same sort of grip. It's got the little cell reload thing in there, so that looks exactly the same. However, it does look, it's got like a tiny little scope on it, so that'd be interesting to see. There's some sort of stock underneath it. Maybe these are all just additions, I can't really tell. They don't really look like normal weapons. Like this thing in the top left doesn't necessarily look like a weapon. It just kind of looks like a big flask, like someone had put coffee in it. So this looks like maybe it could be stuck on the front of the laser rifle and shoot a massive laser. I don't know, but it's there. Okay, the next thing in this shot, here we have a bobblehead. Just underneath the weapons on the weapon rack, there is a bobblehead. Bobbleheads are going to be in the game, that's all I can think. I mean, obviously they're going to be in the game, whether or not they'll have the same sort of attributes to them. Like when you pick one up, it'll give you some sort of like ability, like a +1 to intelligence. Hopefully that's the same, because I really enjoyed that, so why not have it in? But that is there. I just wanted to point that out because some people might have missed that. So there's a bobblehead there, so they're going to be back. Okay, Okay, so some people have been complaining that the fur on this guy doesn't look very real. I mean, I guess that's not really a big deal. It's just a trailer. I mean, this isn't done. Again, some people are saying that the textures on this guy's arm looks a bit sort of weak and not necessarily hyper realistic. I don't think this is necessarily a problem, because I don't think with Fallout, I don't think they're gonna try and go for some sort of really real, good looking game. I think the game doesn't need to look real for it to be good looking, and I think this will either suit an art style, or it'll be sort of changed later on. But I think this game looks good as it is. I like the way the graphics look, honestly. That's just my personal opinion. And we've seen things with this sort of fur. We saw in The Witcher 3, they got sort of new like hair in the engine and stuff, and that tanked your frame rate. So I don't think that not having realistic hair is really a big deal. Okay, next thing we got the Pip-Boy here. This looks like a different design of the Pip-Boy from the original, well, from the previous two. So I just thought I'd sort of point that out. The Pip-Boy, I mean, obviously the Pip-Boy is going to be in the game. If the Pip-Boy wasn't in the game, then people wouldn't buy the game. I mean, it's a big part of Fallout. It's a Fallout trademark. Everyone loves the Pip-Boy. But yeah, the design has changed, although, I mean, it looks like it's got pretty much all the same functions. Except it doesn't have the little buttons across the bottom, so maybe those will be, like, implemented on the screen itself. But yeah, the Pip-Boy is back.
Let's go, pal.
And there we have it. So that has been my Fallout 4 trailer breakdown. I tried to go as in-depth as I can, as I could even. I'm terrible at sort of describing stuff, so I hope sort of points were gotten across. If you do you have any questions about anything, I'll try and explain it in the comments. Let me know if I missed anything. Let me know if you guys spotted anything, or maybe have any speculations in the comments below. I'd love to find out. But yeah, I'm going to go now. Hope you enjoyed, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace off.